So today we have ourselves a post from Nimai, and this is a post going over what it actually means to compete in competitive games and what it takes to get good. So, get good is a term that's thrown around a lot. It's thrown a lot in competitive gaming and competitive stuff, and people sometimes get frustrated with it because it's, hey, that doesn't actually mean anything. What am I supposed to do? How do I actually get good? And it gets thrown out in some spaces because the answer is it's things you already know that you just don't want to go do when the game or the thing you're trying to do is just harder than you think and you're looking for a cheat code and a shortcut and it just doesn't exist. It's not like, oh, build differently or just do this one thing, like, oh, the trick to get from silver to diamond in Overwatch is you just need to go ahead and hold your crosshair at this height. No, it sometimes gets thrown around when people are looking for those sort of things and it's like there's too much to explain. Silver to diamond is just too much of a climb to be one thing. On the other hand, in Overwatch, we could probably substitute out get good with tank angles and time your pushes with your team. And that's not that much more complicated of a concept and would cover like a good 60-70% of what would help people get good. But it doesn't matter. What we're going to see here is that there is a post here. I want to see what they put in terms of what they think it actually means to get good. So, hey, I am former top 500 player before retiring and was a coach. The post was meant to help give a realistic expectation on both what it takes and how to improve. So no sugarcoating, no BS. This is the reality. So this is the truth. We're looking at this and this is the truth. This is how you actually get good, we're being told. None of the make you feel good because they have ulterior motives. They want you to keep watching their videos, keep reading their other posts. Like this is the based answer that they're going to give us here. First off, let me actually explain what it means to compete. Because after coaching enough people, I can say with certainty that people do not understand what it truly means. Competing in a competitive environment simply boils down to two things. So these are the two things that it comes down to. These are the two things that it comes down to compete competitively. One, are you willing or able to put in more time than people at your current or desired level? Two, are you willing to suffer more than what others are willing to do? So, I'm going to take a pause here because simply boils down to two things. And these are the only two things. We didn't see these are two of the most important things. We didn't say you really have to get these two things through your head. We said in order to compete, it's just these two things. That's what simply boils down to means. And I'm going to call malarkey. I am. So these are absolutely important things, and people should understand if you want to get to Grandmasters or Masters or Go Pro or anything like that in Overwatch, it is going to take a ridiculous, an inhumane number of hours, especially 6 years into Overwatch's lifespan when people are already really good, to get to those top levels. It is. Whether you're talking GM, which is going to be 0.5% of the player base, whether you're talking about professional, be that Owl or contenders, whatever you're considering professional there, it is going to take an insane amount of time and effort, and you only have 24 hours in the day, just like everyone else does. You mostly have the same amount of time as everyone else, barring some things like you have the super gene that allows you to actually only sleep 4 hours a night and not, suffer any negative consequences for that long or short term, that sort of thing. Barring that, we've all got roughly the same amount of time, or, you're having a shorter lifespan, whatever. Hey, 24 hours in a day, that's sort of the standard. You're going to have to sacrifice and do things that most people wouldn't be willing to do. Yes, that is true of the professionals. They did those things, and people who got to GM did not get to GM playing 2 hours a week. They didn't get to GM playing 6 hours a week either. Most people who got to GM, when they made their push to actually get good enough to get to GM caliber, were probably playing 5 or 6 days a week. And it wasn't casual play, it was focused, hard work play, thinking about what went wrong. Okay, what's wrong? Maybe they were warming up their aim constantly. Maybe they were doing aim training 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 4 days a week. Maybe they were VOD reviewing every other day, but they were working. It wasn't just some I'm playing. So these are important things, being able to put in more time than people at your desired skill level. That's absolutely important. And this suffering thing, I'm going to use for a less fun type of thing. And if we're going with less fun as what we are, and like, hey, no, you're going to go do aim training instead of playing, or you're going to VOD review instead of playing, or you're going to stop and be hypercritical of yourself and look at what went wrong every time instead of just flaming your teammate, which is maybe easier, maybe that sort of thing, then I'll agree that both of these things are really important, but I'm not going to say simply boils down to, because there really is more to it than that. And that is going to be, are you smart with your time? Like, are you smart with your time? And you can say, well, that sort of fits into second with how I fit it in there, but that's a stretch to say that, hey, making sure that you're actually willing to do aim training is something that does it. There's also going to be something to be said for how smart are you with your time? Where you're going, hey, are you playing through tilt, or are you stepping away and doing other things? Are you balancing your schedule so that you go exercise properly? Are you going, hey, instead of playing for 6 hours in this session, I'm going to play for 4 hours, and I'm going to exercise 2 or 3 times a week with some cardio so that it's better. I'm going to eat a little better. I'm going to make sure that I sleep appropriately. Are you factoring in the fact that at this point, to get into the top 5.5% of the player base, some people just aren't physically capable of it? If you are in a, hey, you only have one hand type situation, you're not getting into GM. GM is now too competitive for you to get there. I'm sorry. That's mostly going to be true. If you have very slow reaction times, you might not be able to do it. Even if you play a lot and get very comfortable with the game, that might be beyond something that you're capable of doing. If you don't have good spatial awareness, because there is a effectively genetic component to that, you can train it to some degree, but it simply might not be in the cards for you because you're not good at 3D spatial stuff, and you can train that, you can make it better, but you'd have to work so much harder than other people that those other people were able to just work on their aim, think more about their fight planning, that sort of thing, and it cost you quite a bit here. So I'm not really willing to get into, or it's not that I'm not willing to, I don't think it's quite right to say it simply boils down to these two things, because suffer more is a little too vague for me. If he later puts no suffer more, if it's all these things and it's everything I want into this box, I may withdraw my complaint, but I don't think I'm going to, because I don't think that we're going to see that happen. And then more time. More time is it's a stupid amount of time that you probably have to put in for someone on the outside who doesn't understand, who's, playing once a week or is playing once every 2 weeks, who's, the video game tourist type, that sort of thing. Most of the people seeing my videos aren't going to think it's a stupid amount of time because, hey, they really love and enjoy Overwatch, and that's totally fine. But you do have to put in a lot of time. It's not just putting in time, though. We've seen plenty of people with diamond borders, plat borders, gold borders on multiple accounts, whatever, didn't find themselves in masters. They're still stuck in gold, plat, silver, whatever, because that's where the majority of the player base is. And it wasn't just a time thing. It was they had to actively be working in an intelligent way on making themselves better. And maybe at some point they did start working on an intelligent way at getting better. And then they decided, wait, I don't have the time to keep up with this, or I don't have the energy after work to keep up with this. Or maybe they started after getting 1,200 levels. And so they then started to get meaningfully better, but, they got a ton of stuff first, so now they're only in plat, or whatever the case may be here. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. That's it. There's literally no top player that doesn't do both of these things. I mean, they suffer more than some others are willing to. They suffer more than every other is willing to. And what do we mean by suffering? Is it like you have to give yourself crippling depression? You have to give yourself a sleeping disorder? You have to take performance-enhancing drugs? What are we considering suffering here? Like, is taking Adderall suffering? Is messing up your sleep schedule constantly suffering? Is having playing 14 hours every day, 6 days a week suffering? Like, what are we actually talking about as suffering here? You want to see why X player is good? Look at their time played and how much they study matches in Theorycraft. Except no one can. Like, you're making this statement, but who? Who are they supposed to look at? Do you have an example of, hey, go look at the Valiant who documented their player's life in season 1 and you get to see, or go look at this schedule that Dallas's coach posted of what their players were mandated to do? Like, what are you giving people this? Because there's not actually a way, or most people aren't going to know a way to go look at these top level players. All they're going to be able to see is the amount of time they've played on one account if they're on an open profile, or they'll be able to guess it based on level. That's not proving the point that you're making here in any way. Do you think it's fun to spend countless hours practicing the same strategy over and over and over and over again? Yeah. Checkmate. No. So here's the thing. Like, yeah. People who enjoy improving. And yeah, there'll be times when they don't enjoy it and they still have to grind through and continue to do it. But I'm going to be honest, most of the people who have gotten really, really good at something, like really, really good at something, like top 0.5% level of something, do actually have a trait to them where they enjoy self-improvement. They enjoy getting better at something. And there will be times when they're powering through it, don't get me wrong, but some people enjoy self-improvement or getting better at something more than other people do. You might say, hey, that's a learned behavior. You can learn to enjoy it. Or you might say, hey, that's a genetic thing. I don't really care which it is. I don't care what you're looking at there. If we wanted to get into economics, it's part of how the, Pareto distributions work, where, 80% of things end up going to 20% of actions. Doesn't really matter. It's mostly because of that same thing that we're looking at here. But yeah, we're going to see that some people actually like the concept and working on self-improvement more than others, where other people want to veg out and watch Netflix. Totally fine. I got no issue with the other thing, but there is something to that isn't just suffer more. Like, there is some level of enjoyment. Yes, there's some disliking of, hey, we're grinding the same thing. We're a team. We've been grinding this for 3 weeks and we still don't have it. And we're all sitting here waiting for this last player to get it because we can't really execute properly until this last player gets it. And, I got it on day 2. The other, our second player got it at the end of week 1. Our 4th and 5th players got it at a week and a half in, but now here we are on week 3 and it's been a week and a half and our 6th player hasn't gotten it yet. Yeah, that's annoying, but some people are going to enjoy this more than others. Do you think it's fun to go over your mistakes and watch how you single-handedly lost the fight for your team? I mean, yeah, because it's giving you agency and control back. So some people are going to like that. Is it as engaging as video games, as playing a video game itself is? Because video games have effectively been designed to grab as much of our attention and hold it, and they're an extremely stimulating thing? No, of course it's not. But some people do like being analytical and seeing those things, and no, VOD review isn't really painful to them. Not to mention the fact that you have to even VOD review in the first place instead of doing the thing you came here to do, play video games. Well, that's the thing. People who are really going to get to the top are going to have some combination of either they got to the top early and were able to do it through a lot of mechanical prowess, and they have mechanical prowess because of genetics, because of working on their aim in other games, because of whatever. And hey, if they worked on their game in other aims, we're going to circle back to where I'm about to go, which is, hey, to them it's, I want to get better at something. It's like someone who runs fast. Yeah, there was some genetic component to it, maybe more than a little bit of some genetic component to it. But if you're talking about a distance runner, they did at some level enjoy running more and more and more and more and more. And no, that wasn't all pain and suffering that got them there. Yes, there was absolutely some level of, hey, don't feel like running today, or hey, don't feel like doing whatever today, or I'd like to cheat on my diet today. But it wasn't all pain all the way through. There was they liked the act of running, or they liked the act of whatever they were doing. It could be, take your pick there, and they sort of went, hey, like this most of the time, continue to do it, but they like getting better at it too. They don't go, hey, I'm just going to keep running this same time. They go, I'm going to push to go harder. They like that act of self-improvement. Suffering means selecting main tank. Exactly, yo mama, exactly. The neat shall inherit the earth. The neat shall inherit the leaderboards. Okay. Nah, that isn't fun. but it's what most people aren't willing to do. Well, it's true that it's what most people aren't willing to do, and I'd agree for most people it isn't that fun. Most people aren't on a constant self-improvement binge either, though. And some are, and those types of people end up at the top of stuff. And that's fine. Those are different types of video games. There's competitive video games, and then there's like, hey, just relax and maybe like grind levels type video games. And there's a reason that relax and grind video games, or relax and grind until you're out of stamina and then do a microtransaction and then, make more money for the developer, actually are a lot more popular, as much as we hate it. Okay. And that is the fun part. Once you are finally good, then all the effort you put in becomes so worth. No? What? No. Like, unless you mean like, hey, you won a specific tournament, you got through open division, unless you're referring to, or hey, you saw your number roll up to 4K or 46K or 43K. Yay, you have happiness for a moment. You have happiness for an hour, a day over those sorts of things. But like, no. That's not worth. It's not worth to be, I'm happy for a day because I broke GM, or I'm happy for a day because we won open division or did this or whatever the case may be here. Like, no, that's not at all what is going on there. You actually have to have enjoyed the self-improvement along the way. Like, seriously, you have to have had some level of enjoyment of the self-improvement along the way, or you're not going to be able to stick to it. Like, you're not in the length of time that you have to with these things through here. Did you see the UP's reply to your comment yet? No, I'm sure he doesn't like it because he knows, because he probably remembers our debate, which I have linked in the description below, but I'll take a look once I get there. Okay. So yeah, like, it's not worth it to put in the hundreds of hours it'll take to get good at Overwatch if all you want is a certain SR or this or that. Like, it's just not worth it. Go do something else more important. Seriously. Go do something else more important. Get good at weightlifting instead. Make the number of the amount of weight, the pounds that it says or the kilograms that it says next to, the irons that you're lifting there. Make that number go up instead. Or make the time on your run go down. Make that number. If you're just like, hey, it's this SR and that's important to you, please go do something else. If you have to do it because you're enjoying improving at it, you do. You don't have to enjoy improving at it all the time, but you have to enjoy improving at it most of the time. This is the true nature of what competing actually means. So if you want to get better at the game and be better than other people who are just like you, then you need to put in the time and suffer more than what other people are willing to do. Because you can put in all the time you want, but if you aren't suffering, okay, so we are explaining what suffering is. Studying the game, reviewing VODs, theory crafting, take blame, think of what you could have done, and so on, then you will never improve even if you have 3 hours in the game. So this is pretty good. This is pretty good. I am glad that we went ahead and did define what our suffering was here as, hey, your suffering is, and then we listed some of those things that would make the game less fun to the average person. That's totally fine. I'm really happy that we did that, and that removes some of my complaint here. There's other things that are important. There are other things that are important. Managing your schedule, that sort of thing. You can climb. I did it. I worked with a player very recently who was on a very limited amount of schedule that they could play because they're students, they were in crunch time at university, whatever. And we got them a very lean schedule, and on that very lean schedule they were able to push back up to their peak, which was a good 400 SR above where they were currently. So like, you can do these things with very lean schedules, playing limited times per week, but yes, you do have to make sacrifices and choose, hey, you're going to do your VOD reviews, you're going to do your exercise, you're going to make sure you get enough sleep, that sort of thing. Okay, so I really like to see this. Good news about all of this is there is no genetics in gaming unless you have major medical issues that hinders your cognitive performance. What? No genetics in gaming. Citation needed. Like, reaction time is a thing. Spatial awareness is a thing. Being able to, more quickly change between processes. Hey, what's going on in the feed? What's going on with the ult tracking that I was just looking at? Am I able to mentally hold that there was an opponent over here and a friend over here and an opponent over here? There are some components to that are not just practice. I'm sorry, but there are. You can get better at all of these things with practice, but there are components to that aren't just practice. And again, if we were at the very beginning of Overwatch, when it was at its maximum player base, then you could potentially hit GM, even with some serious limitations. But I don't ascribe to the belief structure currently of anyone can get to GM with the player base as small as it is at this point. Like, no, it's actually a pretty hardened game at this point in terms of if you're, even if you have things that we wouldn't consider medical issues that hinder your cognitive performance, you might not be in a place where it's real for you. I'm sorry, but that's sort of reality in a 6-year-old competitive team-based shooter. Adam says, no, people definitely have better genetics for reaction time and quick thinking and natural affinity for mechanics. Yes. Then you can improve. Okay, well, you can improve, yes. This part is true. True. So this part is true. You can improve unless you have these things, but it doesn't mean you can get good. If we're defining good as getting into the top tier. I'm going to be real with you guys. I am not a smart guy and not smarter than anyone here. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do this. I'm not smarter than anyone here. Really? Really? In the 100 people online now, you don't think you're smarter than any of them? If you really think that's true, you wouldn't have posted this. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but don't do this everyone has 100% equal inherent abilities thing. It can sometimes be like feel-good stuff, but we are naturally inclined to be better at different things. Now, it absolutely does not mean that someone could just come in, touch Overwatch right now, and just through natural ability, play 10 games or play 20 games and be like, oh, in 20, 30 games, I got to GM. I'd never touched Overwatch before. I had no first-person shooter experience, but, hey, that's that. There's absolutely work that they'd have to put in on top of it, either in Overwatch or elsewhere with some transferable skills, but, there's still some level of natural affinity for this stuff. And there's still some level of, hey, smarter people maybe figure out the route to improvement faster, or maybe not, because they might figure it out but not want to do it. I didn't want to get into personal details, but I think this is relevant. But most of my teachers thought I was dumb, essentially, and wasn't capable of anything. And that could have meant that you were the smartest person in the room and you struggled with the work and you struggled to pay attention. Or it could have meant you went, hey, I solved this material ages ago. I'm now going to go do this other thing. And then they didn't like that. Like, teachers don't like it when you're at a different pace than the class, whether that's faster or slower than the class. Like, they want you, they're not trying to actively dislike this, but they're looking at this, they're looking at a bell curve, and they're teaching towards this because that's what they're trying to do. Or they're trying to teach towards this because they're going, no, a no child left behind type thing. I gotta get this. And either one of those means that this is going to suffer. Now, I'm not claiming that this person is brilliant. I don't actually know. They could be in here, but they could just have attention issues where, they're in the average in terms of their intelligence. That's sort of a vague thing that we're doing here, but they get into how do I want to put this? They're good at spatial awareness. They're good at reaction time, but they're not so good at, we can pick something, they're not so good at mathematics, or they're not so good at deductive reasoning, whatever. I don't really care. The point is, school hasn't been a good measure of that anyways. Okay. Not saying that video games is a representation of intelligence. Good. Just saying that you don't need to be smarter to achieve what you want. Right. You're trying to go, this is all hard work and suffering. And if you suffer more, that's better. And that's okay. Like, yes, you do have to put in a lot of time. I think these are good things to tell people. I do. I think these are like good things to tell people, and like to keep expectations realistic. I just wouldn't put it down as it's just these two things. Mm-hmm. Um, And on a more personal note, I use the same philosophy to become something I've always wanted to do, which is a programmer. Great. I'm almost job ready and got my first actual internship. Fantastic. Good for him. Not saying this to brag or anything like that. I am just trying to debunk the whole you either have it or you don't. It can be both. It can be 90% this while being 10% you have it or you don't. Like, it can. It's not just these. Don't overcorrect with your worldview here, buddy. That's simply not true because I never had it, so you can achieve anything if you want. I mean, you had some of it. Like, if you were able to become a programmer, though this is internship, so we're not necessarily there yet, though that's really probably the equivalent of junior programmer in terms of you mostly will get assigned to the same work. So sure, we'll say that you've made it, that you're doing it, and hey, that's cool. And some of how you made it was, I'm sure you had dedication, and some of it was you had some level of aptitude for it, I suspect. Now, you might not have had as much aptitude for it. You might have had people in your classes or in your boot camp or whatever who had more aptitude for it, but you were able to through a combination of aptitude and diligence and intelligence in how you approached it. Like, intelligence in how you approached it, natural aptitude, dedication. And you might have been light on this, but heavy on the two other things. You had a smart way to approach it because you'd gotten good at something before. You'd gotten good at Overwatch before. So you knew, wait, if I'm struggling with this, there's things that I can do that are going to be similar to VOD views. I'm not struggling with programming in general. I'm struggling with this little aspect of programming. So let me go struggle specifically how to set up XYZ, or let me go struggle specifically this language because I'm struggling with that sort of thing. Like that means you know how you figured out how to improve previously, which may have made it easier for you. But yeah, you can do it just like, combination of things. Okay. If you're willing to do what most people aren't in that area, whether it's improved, if you are willing to do what most people aren't in that area, whether that is improving in Overwatch or anything really, will definitely help. You will get better if you're willing to VOD review, if you're willing to do aim training when other people aren't. Absolutely true. If you're willing to not just play for 10 games, if you're willing to not play through tilt, if you're willing to go, no, when I'm playing for serious, so if I didn't get enough sleep last night, I'll go to bed early, and hopefully that'll mean I get to play tomorrow when I have a correct level of sleep, that sort of thing, then yeah, you will do better than others. Edit, there's some misunderstandings and clarifications I want to make. When I saw suffer, I mean do something that isn't fun. So that does help, and I can see that. And that's fine. I don't mind that you made this a little more inflaming, personally. I don't mind that. That's just you using a hook, not really bothering me. And this is mostly pretty good. Also, I know a lot of people have a different view on my comment about how Jeans does not play much of an improvement. A common thing I hear and saw in the comments already was there's countless examples of people improving much faster than most. And here's my perspective. I hope we're going to go into some level of those people have already improved at something before, and they've figured out the process of self-improvement, and they can go take that and apply it to other things. Which, by the way, when you guys come get coaching from me, I'm actually hoping you're kind of learning that, and we'll figure out, wait, if I can get good at Overwatch, I can take some portion of that and figure out how to apply it to other portions of my life as well, because that'll help you more in the long term. The reason why some players are... The reason why some players are exceptional early on is because they have prior experience. It's not Jeans, for example. Let's take me. I mean, no, when we're talking the very beginning of it, some people would have had a natural predisposition. We will have had players that came on the scene as 14-year-olds and just went, they just have insane aim. Like, they do. That happens sometimes. We saw some of that with Fusion, I want to say, took someone that like Zerg or Zergling or something like that, and they didn't actually play him, but they had him as on their bench as their Widow player, and he went on and went into other games, but it's like, okay, this kid just has insane aim, and this is wild. And then you saw similar things with Sugar Free on Atlanta Reign, who I also believe has moved on to other games, not Atlanta Reign, but Atlanta Academy was too young, and this isn't coming from they really grinded the game super, super hard. Like, yes, it is. Don't get me wrong. Sugar Free absolutely grinded the game very hard, but there is a little more to that. Like, there is a little bit more to that of, hey, they had those kid reflexes, kid reactions that helped, and not just any kid, but like a kid who had a bit of a natural predisposition to it. Okay. They didn't have significant prior experience is more the point I'm making. When I got into Overwatch, I went from bronze to masters in about 6 months. Okay. Most people say, oh, well, you're built different. No, you can absolutely, especially at the beginning of Overwatch when it was more populated, but you can absolutely go from bronze to masters in 6 months. That's good. I applaud that. That's nicely done. Don't get me wrong. But that isn't like, oh my goodness, well, you flipped some switch. That's okay. You ground your way through that, working on yourself, working on getting better the whole way through. Cool. Well, you're built different or have good genes. Nope, doesn't have to be either of those. It can absolutely be what you think it is. But if you knew me, then you would have known that I had prior experience competing in Super Smash Bros. Melee. There you go. If you don't know, that game is stupid hard. You literally have to be frame perfect almost all the time. Not quite frame perfect, but sure. It takes months to even move properly in the game. Or some might argue more than months. You've started to move properly after months, but sure. When I first started, that was my first video game that I took serious. Then yeah, I was much, much slower to learn. Took me forever, but I kept on the grind even though everyone around me got better much faster than I did. Now, after years of playing the game, very serious at a respectable level, moving to Overwatch wasn't that bad. I'm actually surprised that you placed bronze initially, truth be told. Getting used to watching frames, to playing a frame-by-frame game like that should kind of make Overwatch feel slow. It should make it pretty easy to go, I'm going to react to this Ana going for a sleep dart with my DM, with my bubble. I'm going to react to this hog throwing a hook with my combat roll to put me behind cover with a blink, that sort of thing. There's still mouse control to do, but bronze seems low. Interesting. Okay. I knew what it takes to get good and had prior experience of putting in the grind into video games. Right. Most, if not all, players have prior experience in other games. Seagull was TF2, Sinatra was CSGO, and so on. Yeah, most of the top players did come from other games. I will grant that. They have been at the top in games for a while, or they've been just outside the top in the previous game, and they all hop on the new game when it comes in to see if they can get to the top, get a little fame, get a little lucky in that one, to really make the pro circuit. But sure, they are coming in with experience. If they didn't have it, then it would not have risen to the ranks so fast compared to most. Sure. Overall, I actually rate this post pretty highly. I think he oversold. I do think he oversold this. It just boils down to these two things. And I think he definitely underplayed some things that he didn't then put in his suffering basket. I'm giving it a lot of credit because he did define his suffer basket and he described it mostly correctly. And once you describe it mostly correctly, you're basically there and you've basically saved like 90% of this. I am still going to say there is a genetic component to this. I am also going to say that we're a little light on what we put in our suffer basket. There's a bit more that we could have put in there. I'm also going to still object on these things aren't fun, blah, 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 blah. When some people do find them fun, they find the process of self-improvement correct, fun, enjoyable most of the time. And they do just let momentum, habit carry it them through it on those times that it's not as fun. If you're really just doing something just to get that number, please go do something else. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. This isn't even something that like makes you better at life or healthier or something like that. So I have issues with this, don't get me wrong, but this is a pretty good message. I'll give this a solid like 6.5. I might even give this, no, I can't give this a 7. But yeah, this was pretty good. What he's really trying to say, though, is a combination of some factors. Most people can hit GM, even if they can never be top tier at any one particular category. Yeah, that's what he's trying to say, and that's why I'm willing to give this a 6.5, maybe almost a 7, because he is going to a good place with this. And he's right. Most people can't, if they want to make this their thing, if they want to do self-improvement, go, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. And then whether they like self-improvement or not, they could force their way up there. I don't think it's wise to do so in some of these situations, but yeah. Anyway, let's hit the refresh because I've heard that he sent a reply. We should hit the refresh there, so we should now have our reply. Ah, okay. Okay. There we go. So let's take a look here. Let's take a look here. Just so people know what kind of person this guy is, he will pretend to be civil, but then talk bad when you aren't there and oversimplify your points and make you look like something you aren't. I will let people be the judge for that, of whether that's true or not, for themselves. I have had a discussion with him. I've reviewed something else that he put up on Reddit. I did put a link down to that as the second line in the description below, as I looked at something else from him. He put out something. We'd been having a back and forth on a couple different Reddit threads. He posted his own topic of how you shouldn't play heroes like May, like Reaper, heroes without that sort of thing. You shouldn't play those types of heroes until you're already GM. He said that, and I thought that was a terrible take. A terrible take. I debated it with him in a couple threads. He posted that thread. I reviewed that thread. And then since we'd been discussing it for a while, he jumped on with me in voice and we debated it for a bit in the middle of the thread. So you guys are welcome to check that one out. I'm sure he won't hop on with me again because we had our discussion. I think I handily won that debate, to be perfectly honest. And I was willing in my cleanup section after he was off, as I was just catching up with chat, I was willing to be frank about thinking, hey, I think that was pretty one-sided. He tried to defend his points, and that's fine. I'm happy that he tried to defend his points. Most people wouldn't have, but it was a bad take. And like, it wasn't a bad take, it was wrong. Like, it's not a bad take, it's wrong. It's not like, oh, you have a silly opinion on this. It's not correct, and I shut it down pretty thoroughly in that debate, and I was respectful about it during the debate, because that's how you make a debate flow, but I'm not going to pretend that he did better than he did, or his points were more sound than they were. Okay. There we go. Okay. So we'll go through there. Anything else? I think that's going to do it. If people have questions, throw them up in chat. No, we'll do more. We'll do a little bit more here. Throw them up in chat if you have questions. If you have thoughts, if you think, hey, this is 10 out of 10, perfectly on point, absolutely. Put that in here. If you think, hey, it's garbage, it's all genetics, or hey, you know, you can't actually get good. You might be able to get to diamond, but you can't get to GM by doing these things. Or you think, oh no, there's too many examples of X or Y, let me know here. Just hit plat, played poorly, but got carried by a Hanzo. Go me. Good for you, Levy. Good for you. Good for you, Levy. Congrats. Congrats. Are you willing to suffer more than what others are willing to do? My guy, I play main tank. There you go. There you go. Okay. I think this is like a motivational preacher. Not a lot of meat, but a nice message that probably has truth in it. That's exactly how I view this. And that's what I'm looking at. There's things that are wrong in this. but the general message that it's getting across is right enough, and people shouldn't go in with an illusion of, I'm going to be GM and I'm going to play 2 days a week for 2 hours a day. No, you're not. Or I'm just going to play the game and I come home after work and I'm tired and I sometimes have caffeine and I sometimes don't have caffeine and I play for 6 hours and then I go to bed at 2 a.m. and I wake up for work at 6 a.m. and I've put so many hours into the game, and why am I not good at it? Yeah, you're not going to get good at the game like that either. And, this effectively enough establishes those things. So I like it. You are coming in at the end. Yes. I'm jealous of the people who have never been below diamond since they started playing. Sure. To be at the top 1% of anything, you absolutely need to put the work in it. You absolutely do need to put the work in to be at the top 1% of anything. That is objectively true. Okay, anything here? Only diamond with 3600 peak, but this is straight facts. Went from plat to 36 peak in one season just because I played probably 8 hours a day. Even after I was bored of the game. None of your friends liked Overwatch either. Constantly looking up guides, watching VODs, high-level players, and trying to learn their mistakes. This is the key right here. He wasn't just watching VODs. He wasn't just looking up guides. He was being more active in how he was doing it. When he was watching high-level players, he's going, what mistakes are you actually making? Let me look at your play. Let me not just watch this like TV, but let me go, no, I don't think it was right that you did that because I'd have gone and did this. Well, it worked out pretty well that you did that. Why did it work out pretty well that you did that? That sort of thing. This is good. Okay. Good life advice, really? Sure. Suffering makes me better. Noted. So you play main tank, clearly. More serious note, just had most Overwatch pro players that compete don't only compete because the game's fun. They compete because competing is fun. Right. Like, they like getting better, and they like the thrill of the competition. And you have to like the self-improvement, and you have to like the thrill of the competition. Or a lot of one and a little of the other. I think that's where competitive differences between some people willing to put the time as or not. But also, I don't know if you wouldn't say it's genes, but some people's awareness, hand-eye coordination, multitasking isn't a super real thing. It's just how quick you change between your processes, like hyper-threading, but okay, is better from the start than others. Not to say you can't work on it, but that's why you see players able to pick up and play the game really fast. It's both. It's some of this, and it is some of what Naomi here was saying of, hey, there are players that are coming in from other games, absolutely. To apply to the more serious parts, you're going to put it all on prior experience. It's not genes, for example. Let's take me. When I got into Overwatch, I went from bronze to masters in about 6 months. People say, oh, well, you're built different, or you're a good Jesus. No, this is what you edited in, and he's going to disagree. It's not always experience, though. Some people can start off and be good. Dante played Minecraft PvP before this game. Dante's a good counterexample. And yeah, that's only one person, and I gave a couple more, but it's not always the case. Some people are naturally better and pick things up faster. It's true. Minecraft PvP was stupid hard. I played some. Get over it. No. But like, okay, I'm gonna say get over it because we get into this territory of like, okay, but now we're just into new self-improvement. Not enough of Minecraft transfers directly over. Or if you're gonna say, no, plenty of Minecraft PvP transfers directly over to Overwatch, well then so should have the Smash Bros. And why did you go down to bronze? You can't have both there. Experience in anything can help you. Sure. Every single God aimer that is pro or not put in a ton of time every day just on their aim. Some people put in more time than others, though. They really did. Some people really did put in more time than others. And some people will never be God aimers, even though they can be professional level. Okay. Yes, but you can't actually second this. Like, you wanted to have good aim, so you grinded for a year in Overwatch to improve your aim. And your aim got hugely better, I'm sure. You can absolutely get hugely better at your aim from putting the time in, but what's your control? Did you go, hey, let's take a group of people and I'll put them all on the same exercise? And did they all have the same level of aim at the end? No, some were going to have better aim. Even if none of them had touched the game before, you put them all through the same workout routine for the same number of months, they're going to have different aim at the end. But I don't mind his overall point here, so it's not bothering me. Okay. This must be flawed. If it was true, I'd be top 500 already. Suffered so much already. There we go. Okay. Okay. That's fine. Overwatch 2 is going to be like Minecraft. Could be. Adam says, apparently I'm 100 SR away from the top 3%, but I didn't put in any work. I just lowered my stance a lot and refused to swap. But that is putting in some work. It's not as efficiently as other people put in work who went through it, that sort of thing. But it is putting in some work there. Do you think it's worth looking for mistakes from high-level players or just looking at what the players are doing right? I don't think you can tell without being looking for mistakes. So, like, I'm looking for what the player is doing right. How are you determining what they're doing right? Well, you're going to have to compare it to either what someone tells you is correct, so you have a coach sitting there telling you this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is right, or you have to compare it to what they've done in other times that you've watched them, or what another pro that you watch does, or your construct of the game. But if you have a really strong construct of the game, you're getting into coaching territory yourself. And how did you build that construct of the game? Well, you watched the reality of the game and you figured out what happened and that sort of thing. So I don't think there's a meaningful difference between your versions there, Mercedes, because you're going to look at it and you're going to go, hey, I want to go ahead and, I just want to look at what he's doing right. Well, how do you know if it's right or not? Like, you can look at him and go, I want to see how Surefour uses combat roll. You can literally load it up and go, that's a super old example, but I want to see how Surefour uses combat roll on Casty and how it differs from how I use it. Is he leaning towards movement? Is he leaning towards using it for the reload? Is he using it to take space on the angles more often? Is he using it to retreat from the angles more often? Usually he's using it to retreat on the angles, but there he used it to go in on his angle. What's different? Oh, is it the enemy team composition? Is it that he just heard a call of where the tracer was? That sort of thing. Oh, he's leaning more towards using it to sustain for the reload purposes than for the movement, but he is trying to get both where appropriate. That sort of thing. Like, you have to analyze it. And you can take a very small thing like positioning, like one ability, like, whatever you want there, but you do have to analyze it and compare it to other parts, to the rest of their play or to other players playing the same hero. Sometimes I feel like I shouldn't be looking for a 4600 support's mistake, but instead try to copy what they do well, since what I think are mistakes not even be mistakes. You have to own the problem is, like, if you're actively trying to change your gameplay, you're gonna, like, yes, it's good to have an affirmative model to go towards. That is helpful. But if you don't understand the why, you're gonna have to do more work later. You are gonna have to understand the why at some point. So if you need like 100 SR, maybe mimicking them is good enough, and maybe, hey, that'll be right enough of the time to work. But like, you are going to need to understand to some degree the why there in order to actually make better decisions, because they'd run into situations where they'd go, you think you're mimicking me, but I wouldn't have done that in that situation. I just assume they're doing everything right unless they die. That's not appropriate. You can go on an off angle on Cassidy and trade for 3 and you died. Oh, you died. It must be wrong. Nuh-uh. Took out 2 or 3 first. I'm totally good with it. That sort of thing. You've been trying to get good for 6 years and I'm still in silver. So the answer there, Squish, is you're almost certainly just playing the game, like just playing the game to play it too much, and you're not doing what Naomi here would refer to as the suffering. I wouldn't call it all suffering, but you're not doing enough of the, hey, let me try to work on improving on one specific thing at a time, and like, once I think I've got that, like, let me hold this in my brain and be thinking about this to a degree while playing. And once I think I've locked it in, let me move on to the next thing. And maybe once I've got this thing in, my average is 50 SR better. Might not be as soon as you get that thing locked in, but it should overall, your average be about 50 SR better. And then you work on another thing, and now it's another 25 SR better. And now it's another 20 SR better. And then this thing's worth another 50 SR. And this may take, getting 4 things implemented like this, depending on how much you play, may take you 2 weeks. It may take you 4 days. It may take you 3 sessions. I don't really care, but that's something that you do. You also, and the truth is, if you're working on a time period of like 6 years, the answer is, are you doing any aim training? Like, seriously, are you doing any consistent aim training? Not, I did aim training once, not, I've done aim training for a month, but like, if you go 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 4 days a week, I have a routine that I'm going to do, even if you only do it for, half an hour, even if you change what your routine is over time, if you stick to that for 3 months, your aim is going to be better. For a month, your aim is going to be better. For 6 months, you're not going to recognize what your previous aim looked like. You're really not. The exceptions to that would be is if you have your sensitivity in a crazy high place and you just can't control it, and then you can grind as long as you want. If you grind as long as you want without actively, when your aim was uncontrollable, you're not actually getting better. Okay. I think that's going to do it for this one. I did in the Discord throw the comment, so you guys can go check that out. We may need some upvote since I'm being slandered here. I think I'm being slandered. You guys can judge that for yourself in the video I linked in the description below there. But yeah, otherwise, leave your comments in the section below. If you enjoyed this, please drop a like, consider subscribing, and be on the lookout tomorrow where we will put up a new post on the Overwatch University subreddit, as well as a guide to playing double shield comps. Poke compositions on ladder, most powerful way to play on ladder right now, and also the most popular if you include poke compositions in general and move out from double shield. But the reality is, poke tank compositions, double off tank compositions, all play as if they're double shield. They just do a worse job of it. So the guide's useful for anybody who's looking to climb on ladder there. But that's going to do it. I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks. Temporal out.